China Über Alles is brought to you in part by Sushi Market Sprouts on 7th in Santa Cruz and Kaito in the Capitol Mall Food Court. Treat yourself to the finest Japanese cuisine you'll find anywhere with fresh sushi to go and delicious ramen dinners. Sushi Market Sprouts and Kaito. Yum! Good afternoon and welcome to China Über Alles. I'm Bill Graff and I'm here with my guests, Nan Su, who is a senior reporter from the Epoch Times, and Amy Howe, a survivor of the re-education camps of the Chinese Cultural Revolution under Chairman Mao. We have an excellent program for you today. Our guest in the second hour will be Gerald Celente. And he's an American trend forecaster. He has some very interesting things to say about China and about the world in general. So we'll be checking in with him in our second hour. Good afternoon, Nan and Amy.
Yes, hey, good afternoon, everyone. And then we're going to have some discussions about the close down of the business of Apple Daily in Hong Kong.
A big-time newspaper.
A big-time newspaper, and also, I'm not sure if you remember, Jimmy Lai was the owner, and he received an interview from 60 Minutes back in 2019 talking about Hong Kong's human rights and democracy movement, and now he was officially arrested in December of last year, and follow his arrest, there was another 4 top managers of Apple Daily also arrested, and in this past week that one of the senior level editor was also arrested. So follow the arrest of the senior editor, so they officially announced they are going to publish their last issue on the 25th. So, which is actually right now it's 25th already in Hong Kong's time. So they are, finishing their last issue, and they are officially close the door. So we're going to talk about that.
I want to just remind our listeners that this closing of this paper and the arrest of Mr. Lai and some other editors from the paper comes on the heels of Epoch Times having their printing press facility destroyed.
That's right.
So this is a very well. Think about like if both newspapers in San Francisco were closed down by the government.
Right. So
or bombings or some other problem. Special time.
It's a special time in the history, so we all need to pay attention. And of course, before we talk about that, we're going to have our usual segment, Amy Howe's story. And Amy spent more than a decade of time in the re-education camp during the Cultural Revolution under Chairman Mao. So Amy, what are you going to bring to us today?
Yes, last Sunday is Father's Day. I made a video called The Memories of Father. I put all my father's picture from different time, different place, and he lived at 91 years age, and he passed away in 2008 in San Francisco, United States. And so I posted, and I saw and lots of people look at, and actually was, I used the music, which was the Barbara Streisand singing the Papa, Can You Hear Me? The Young Pill, that the Broadway show, and made the movie. So basically, I just tried to contact with him somehow in that Father's Day, And the first picture, it says apropos, I posted that he was 16 years old, leaving his hometown Suzhou to Hong Kong. And so from 16 years old, he started his own business. And 32 years old, 16 years later, 1949, and they come back to Shanghai. So it was under the communists that already took over 1949. So they asking all the Chinese overseas, including in Hong Kong and all other places, Southeast Asian, and to bring the money back and to help and build a new China.
Yeah, that was the time. A lot of Chinese businessmen all around the world went back to China because they believe. Because keep in mind, the Communist Party at that time, they really in their mouths they talk about democracy. Say they want to build a democratic China. That's their promise. So the intellectuals and business people all around the world went back to China.
Yeah, they promise everything. They say that, especially say that you're a businessman, so you will do business as usual, and also you can go back and forth, Hong Kong, mainland, wherever you wanted to go. You know, that's all the promises. So people bring in the money back. So my father was 32 years old, so he's quite naive, I think. So he believed what the communists say that, you know, now we are going to build a new country, and which was a very idealist country, and there's people, especially children, they all have opportunity to go to school and free. So under that kind of idealism, and he coming back because he found out in China they has not one company making those teaching equipment. So he started thinking he want to start one. And so he was in the business, I think during the Japanese occupation, he was doing this automobile parts business in Burma Road. So he ran around Burma and you know, to supply the people to have this automobile parts. And later on, he was doing the export-import business for the British cigarettes. And so he had no experience with any teaching equipment, but he think he look around, he think because he had a dream is like every kid had the opportunity to go to school. That's related to his own experience because he was orphan adopted by a Muslim parents. And so the father was drinking, alcoholic, and also gambling. And he has a good business making it's like they call silversmith. He make a fantastic things, you know, for that time in China, rich people, if your daughter get married, the dowry is you had to make a whole table, you know, silver. Well, we use the silver, real silver. And so he was in good business, but then he drinking and gambling away everything. So they become very poor. So every time, and his cousins, everybody go to school, and he has no chance to go. And finally, he got for a few years, and then he had to go to work. That time, a British opened a telephone company in Suzhou, first time. So they need some people to do the, you know, the operators, you know, just plug in the lines. So he applied for, and they accept him. I think he was only 13 years old. But he told them he was 16 or something. So they accept him because he's a kind of very smart kid. And then, but he still want to go to school. So he throw the ball, you know, operating ball, and took it home and practice. So basically, he can cross. I don't look the ball. He will put it right into the ball, you know, the puller and the phone rings. And so somehow, then meanwhile, he's still reading the book. So one day, he been caught and by his boss and the manager reported to the owner. And so he think that's it, you know, they're going to fire him. But actually, it just the good things happen to him. And this owner coming, he's a very smart guy, and that time he was a partner with this British company, and owned this telephone company in Suzhou. And so he asked him to the office. He said, "Kid, I want to talk to you about it." He said, "How come you can read the book still operating?" So my father said, "Oh, I draw the ball and practice the home." So the guy said, "Wow, you're so smart. You're a smart kid. So what do you want to do? You want to work or you want to go to school?" My father said, "Of course I want to go to school because I was poor and then my parents had no money, so I had to make money supported them." He said, "Well, call your parents here. I want to talk to them. I'll make an offer." And so the parents come in, and then the guy said that, "I'm going to send your son and to Shanghai to study, and whatever you want it to be. And I pay for the tuition, and also I found a place for him to stay. He had to work a little bit, and so that's it. That's a deal. But the only thing is he cannot work here anymore. There's no salary. So you parents had to figure out how to support yourself." And you think about that. And so his father said, his father is adopted parents. I think the mother loved him a lot, and the father, because he's a drunk and also gambler, so he not much care, but he not physically abuse him or anything, never do that to him. So when the guy told out that this kid is smart, so he think should let him have some kind of opportunity. And so he think about it, so he decided to let him go. So, but my father was that time was only 15 years old and never finished the high school. The guy want to send him to college. Leston College is a British college in Shanghai, and to study the architecture, because he said he liked to draw. And but the guy said, "Well, I'm going to send you to one, evening school, and then you can prepare." And the course, he didn't take it. But he said, "I didn't take any course. What I'm going to do?" He said, "Doesn't matter. You're smart. You figure it out." And so in first year, I pay everything. You don't have to work. You just catch up. And he did. And somehow he was doing well in college. Didn't even go to high school. So anyway, but after about 2 years later, he was 16, I think. And then in the war, they started some war, internal war in China. And this guy, and they invited him, this reformer people's army, and invite him to be a secretary of the army. And so he joined, called the 19th Division or something. And then he joined, then unfortunately he died in the war. So that's why my father has no support anymore. So but he already in Shanghai, he studied, he saw the big city, because Suzhou is a small city, and made a lot of people. So the outside the world is very big. So he cannot go back to stay in a small town. And so he decided to do his own adventure. That's why in the 16 years old, he went to Hong Kong. I have this photo. It's very valuable, I think, and the souvenir. I treasure that because that photo, he was 16 years old, a bunch of people, and that's including 4 more and his co-worker in the telephone company, and though they say they fell away to him. So that's a photo I posted on his video, the first. So that's, he started with his life. Of course, is lots of things happening to him, and until he go another 16 years. He become successful, and in Hong Kong, and also the base usually, mostly in Southeast Asia. And he was doing all the export-import business, automobile parts, everything else. So 32 years old, 1949. So he accumulated some money. So he decided to coming back to the China and to helping the communists to build the new country. Because the new country is supposed to be the big attraction to him is every kid have a chance to go to school. So that's his childhood dream. And so he pulled all the money, but still left something, didn't close the shop in Hong Kong. And so still have some properties, assets, and monies in Hong Kong. And then coming to China, Shanghai, to start his teaching equipment and, specimen. Because you're teaching some science, you need a specimen, So that kind of companies. So you start mainly supply, not for the high school that time, just for college, medical school. They need some teaching equipment. And so his company was doing this, manufacturing this, supply the whole country. And so it's a long story, and today I only can talk about that much because I want to tell about what's happening after he coming back to China and how the CCP promised everything, then gradually just betrayed those people supposed to be patriot, love this country, and come back, and took away all their assets, and then make them as criminals and class enemy, and then gradually and under the reform, and so took away, basically torturing, humiliating them, and then took away their soul. So it's a very sad story, So I will continue next week.
So you've set the stage for us, sort of how your father accumulated his wealth and started his companies, and then decided to come back and help China. And we'll hear what happened when he did that in our next visit.
Yeah, very much like Hong Kong they did right now. In 1997, Hong Kong back to China, and they promised 50 years they're not going to change it. It's a famous like a one country, two systems.
Right.
That's what they tell everybody, right? And now it's only 24 years. Yeah, 24 years, not even 50 years, not even 30 years. So everything just...
Yeah.
Hong Kong's gone.
Well, like we said in previous programs, Hong Kong, like Amy just repeated, Hong Kong may be gone as we knew it before. The 50 years, we didn't even get close to 50 years. The promise
not even 30 years.
Yeah, the promise was 50. Yep, the promise was 50 years, and I think we were like 28 years, something like that.
Yeah, and then they officially claimed that actually 4 years ago. They are basically the diplomats from Chinese foreign ministry basically say, the 1984 agreement between British government and Chinese government about the one country, two political system, that was a historical document. It doesn't bear any meaning anymore in today's world. So that's how they just basically just so lightly. But keep in mind, that was an agreement signed between the British government and Chinese government. It was passed both legislature.
Yes.
In United Kingdom and in China,
two countries,
and
recognized around the world.
And it was officially announced and recorded in United Nations.
Yes, Absolutely.
And they just so lightly they say, oh, that's a historical piece of a historical document. We knew that it's something like something.
I don't know.
It's like a story.
It's like a big story.
Yeah.
So Amy is, of course, as always, has laid out the basis for the talk today that we're going to talk about what's going on around the world with China. Newspapers that supposedly were there to inform and to act as the guardian of what goes on. That's what newspapers are for. We call them in the United States the fifth estate. That's what they were always referred to. They're the watchdog. Our government.
Yeah, always call those reporters is the king without the crown.
Yes, and so now we have a
That
situation
kind of
in
power.
Hong Kong where one of the major watchers as of today is gone. One of the other major watchers, our guest Nan Su, works for that company, Epoch Times. They, for quite a while, a number of weeks, had their printing press facility sabotaged.
Yep.
Yeah.
They finally got it back up and running. It's now printing again, but this is not a situation that we in the United States even really understand, because we've always had a press. Sometimes the press doesn't do what it's supposed to, but we've always had a press in the United States. I mean, Benjamin Franklin started a press in this country. And a bunch of other early guys, they printed the news of the day, and sometimes it took a couple of weeks by horseback to get wherever it got, but people eventually read who the next president was and how the election went and all that sort of thing before we had the internet and telephones and all that. But here's the thing. We've always known there was a press to watch out for us and to report what's going on, so we know what's happening. In Hong Kong,
that is actually one of the key elements of
the press
of our First Amendment.
Yeah,
right.
Well, in Hong Kong right now, not so much.
Not so much, and they started doing this actually right from the beginning in 1997 when Hong Kong went back to China. But they did it in a very subtle way.
Yes.
So in the early days, what they did was they will, newspaper, the medias, they have hard time to survive in today's world, right? So they have to put a commercial out, the information out. So what Chinese government did was they will send all these the provinces that's under the control in the inland China, they will go to Hong Kong. They will basically, what they did was they will divide the provinces. So the several provinces will go to one media, always just dedicated to that one media to give them all the commercials from that provinces.
Right.
And then what happened, very quickly all the media start learning the lessons when they actually spoke out and criticized something, about things that's done by the Chinese government. Now their client, not their client, their customers, right? So from putting all the commercials, paying the bills, helping them paying the bills, will come to, oh yeah, please don't do that. You make us in a very hot spot.
Yeah, precarious situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that way, so gradually in the years, all these media start, they self-censored.
Absolutely.
They all self-censors. They don't, they know what kind of article that they can put on their media, what kind of things they cannot do. But, after, years after years after years, gradually you only have two media left. One's Apple Daily, another one's Epoch Times.
Yeah. Right?
Especially during the 2019 democracy movement. You see, the two media that's really on the street cover all the events.
So
those are two media.
Let me ask you this. I don't want to put you on the spot now, because I know you work for this company. But now that the other paper's gone, and Epoch Times is pretty much the big paper that's left in Hong Kong. Are you folks worried that you're now the target?
Well, the people worry. The people working in our corporation, we really worry about the future of Hong Kong, the freedom of speech, and worry about how to make sure that the truth can still go out every day in the morning when when the prints are done, and then if we can present them to the society in Hong Kong. We'll try to see if later in future programs we'll invite some of the folks
from there,
the office working in Hong Kong.
I hear Amy agreeing with everything you're saying. Amy, obviously you saw the fall of all of these papers in China when you were in the Cultural Revolution times.
China, when I was born, everything's lying. 1949, they took over, and probably for very short time, like not even a year. So Shanghai at that time was have a freedom of speech. They have different the newspapers, and you can say anything you wanted. And but probably not even a year, few months, they all cracked down. So when I was born, 1952, so just only one propaganda. That's it.
Yeah, there's the people.
And only the newspaper, only one thing is real, is a date. And
the print date is the only accurate information.
Yeah, that's
true.
Only, yeah. So we've been trained how to defining, how to find out the truth. Is whatever they say, yes, should be no. Just opposite.
So you read between the lines. You learn how to decipher it.
Decipher. Yeah. Everybody knows.
Right.
I went back. I forgot about that. I live in the United States, a free world for a while. I went back. I forgot about that, and I asked some stupid question. They would laugh at me. Said, "You kidding?" He said that you not grow up. You grow down. I said, "What is that?" He said that in China, only retarded person they know how to lie, because that's the only way you can survive.
Yeah.
So I said, well, I know I'm a very low IQ and lower than a retarded. So
I don't believe that for a minute.
It's true, because they are laughing. Because I said that people talking about this is true. They say, what kind of question is that?
I look at the situation that Hong Kong is in right now, and I think to myself, these people know what freedom's like because they lived in freedom for many, many years, 25, 30 years. Then now they have the freedom taken away from them. They have the military police from mainland China coming.
Well, they actually have a military presence. They have a military base in Hong Kong.
Sure. But I mean, they showed up with water. I saw the pictures of the water cannons and the fire boats shooting water on people, from Hong Kong Harbor and whatnot. And I think of all of these people who've made a living. They've built restaurants. They've built companies. They've built manufacturing. They've done all this stuff to try to compete around the world, because Hong Kong had a lot of international commerce going on.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
it used to be a gateway to Asia. It's a financial center,
It's the third largest financial center in the world after New York and London.
Yeah?
Yeah.
And so now...
Used to be.
Well, let me ask you, both of you, I'm fascinated to hear your response. It's now... no longer free. All those people who grew up there and lived there, under freedom, basically under freedom, what's going to happen? Are those people all going to leave and try to find another place to go? Well, are they going to be allowed to leave?
I have a lot of relatives live. They're born in Hong Kong. I have a cousin. In 1997, I visiting them just right after coming to take over back to China. So I talked to her. She's the principal of the high school, retired. So I asked her, I said, how you feel? See all of those Chinese red flag all over the place. 1997, right? Already back to China. I said, is there lots of Hong Kong people they really happy about it? Oh, finally I'm become a Chinese citizen now, not in the British control, right? Not colonized or whatever. I said, what do you really think? He said, actually, I tell you something. He said, I look at those things, I'm so scared. I believe our freedom is gone. Don't take it too long. She's right, you know.
Yeah, the British government basically said if you held a British passport before 1997, you can use the passport, travel to United Kingdom, and they will allow you to stay. And then after stay there and work there for 4 years, you can apply for British citizenship. So that's what that's last year. I assume that was just took place last year. So because the Chinese government openly denounced the one country and two political system after the public security law was made into the legislation. Now, before 1997, before the Hong Kong went back to China, most of the people. Just waves of people with a little money, they afford to do that. Basically, they went all around the world to get their
Canada.
A lot of Canada. Yeah, a lot of them had so a lot of them. Well, Canada is one of them because people went there. And also, some of them did not choose to go to there because mainly because in Canada, if you want to get your residency, you have to stay there for 5 years. So a lot of those business people, they can't afford to stay in Canada for 5 years. So some of them went to different places. Some of the United States, some of them went to Australia. So that's what happened. So this is the last resort. It seems to me right now the last resort for people in Hong Kong to get their freedom is just to take your
British passport.
Yeah, go to United Kingdom.
Yeah.
See, there's Hong Kong. There's a long history. People without democracy. Okay, even under the British government rule, Hong Kong did not have democracy until 1994. That's only 3 years before Hong Kong was.
Well, they had British rule.
That's right. So Hong Kong was returned to China. Now, this is the key.
But wait, hold on. Yeah, let me stop you for just a second.
Yeah.
Even though under Chinese people living in Hong Kong under British rule were not technically free.
No. Freedom. It has a lot of freedom. This is what I'm about to say.
Yeah,
okay.
You can traveling everywhere, really, no difference.
No. Hong Kong, people living in Hong Kong always enjoy a lot of freedom. That's a very confused, the gray area that make a lot of people living in Hong Kong didn't realize the danger that's coming. Okay, that's because British government did not give people the right to vote until 1994, really late. Okay, so they don't have the right to vote, but however, the freedom of the people living in Hong Kong are protected under the bigger British democratic system. But people
you mean vote for what?
Vote to elect.
Vote for Hong Kong government.
Well, they have some elections going on in 1990.
I understand that the governor is appointed by British.
Well, not just there are some elected officials between.
Had to be,
Between 1994 and 1997,
there were some elections.
There were some sort of elections. Not the governor of the Hong Kong.
For Hong Kong government.
Yes.
For Hong Kong government.
Yes. So that's
they don't
only
have a right to vote.
That's only between 1994 and 1997. And the reason they put that in practice was only because, 1984 was the year the Chinese government and British government agreed that one country, two political system.
Right.
Now, they were, originally the British government just was going to give Hong Kong back to China as it was. No election, nothing, no democracy, but with a lot of freedoms, okay? Now they're counting on the promise. Now, what happened is, at 1989, it was Tiananmen Square massacre.
Right.
So all of a sudden, the British government woke up. They said, whoa, we are going to give these millions of people to the bloody hands of the government that drove the tank to Tiananmen Square, crashed the student movement, democracy movement, right? What are we doing? They start questioning themselves. So that's how they start thinking, well, maybe, we can't bring all these people, right, to United Kingdom, but maybe we can teach them how to do democracy. Maybe they can use the democracy.
In 3 years.
Yeah. So, well, it's still something, right? It's better than nothing. So that's why in 1994 they start some sort of election going on in Taiwan and teach people how to do election, elect the legislators. Elect the legislators, right? The governor was appointed basically directly by the United Kingdom British government, so there's no election for that. So now this is a very confused gray area for a lot of people living in Hong Kong. They didn't realize, well, we didn't have a democracy anyway under British rule, right? We didn't have a democracy. We have a lot of freedom, but they didn't realize, the whole umbrella change. It changed to the democratic British system to
Communist China.
Communist China's political system. So now they are really just basically counting on the promise made by the Chinese Communist regime at that time. They believe, oh yeah, there's agreement. They're so naive, right? They're not like the Amy. They're not like Nansu who live, inside China, and they live under the British government, and they think there must be a arrangement that's going to work. So that's why year after year after year, the more and more people start concerning. Eventually, 2019, we saw the big move, huge movement. Yeah. That's for democracy. So you see this how it's exactly the same way when Amy's father.
Yes, I can't wait for the second part of the story because I know what's coming. I've never heard the story, but I in my brain I can already
right
because of what Amy's other stories have pointed out how the Chinese government operates. I can see it coming.
It's lies, lies, and lies,
and more lies.
Yeah, and more lies. So back in 1949, that was the time. Actually, a lot of businessmen and intellectuals all around the world. They were very successful outside of China. They went back to China to help the new country because they believe the lies from communist regime. They were going to build a democratic China, a new China, and then.
Well, don't spoil the story now, because we got the second half coming next week.
Yes, yes, but anyway, years after years, they finally come to realize here that there's a difference. Okay, the reason that the Chinese Communist regime, when they took over control of China, they really promote the idea of democratic government, new Chinese government, was because they criticized the nationalist communist, nationalist government under Chiang Kai-shek. That's no democracy, right? That's what they criticize. Now, people all around the world went back to China, and years after living under the rule of the Communist Party, they finally realized under the Chiang Kai-shek's nationalist government, the democracy you're talking about just what you discuss is the more democracy or less democracy. But compared with the Chinese Communist Party,
no democracy.
No democracy.
Yeah, exactly. So is it better to have less democracy over here than no democracy at all over here?
Right.
Yeah. If people live outside of China, just like my father, didn't really dealing with communist CCP. They don't know.
Well, that's why people...
How evil they are.
That's
so
just how naive these people are. Just like the people living in Hong Kong the same way.
Yeah, same way, yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I think on MZ's Saturday special, we have some liberal people and businessmen were talking about it. So he asked me, he said, can you not to call CCP evil? He said, evil is a worshiper Satan. I said, what do you want me to call? Satan? Maybe better. So, I'm talking about people so naive.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think the beauty of our program and what we're trying to do here is to people like myself who've never lived under communism in any place I've ever lived in. I lived a lot of places, but I don't know what it's like to have the government have total control. I did live in one country where there was a king, and he was in charge of whatever he said was law, but he was reasonable. He told people, who said you can't drive your car more than 25 miles an hour on this little island or we're going to have mayhem, so don't anybody drive more than 25 miles an hour. So, nobody's car ever got out of second gear. But, if you got caught driving faster than that, the policeman would take your car away.
Yeah, I remember there was a lot of things that people cannot imagine. What happened, how the life is like. I remember 1983, that was the year I was about to graduate from my college. So, at that time, Voice of America was not officially established their office in China yet, but they provide, broadcasting service to China, right? So a part of their program was, it's a Bible study. They have this Bible study.
Oh, yeah.
They always will talk about Bible, right?
It's going to go over big in China.
Yeah, well, that was the time, I keep listening to that program. So they have this, they have this mailing service. You want a Bible, you can make a request. They will send you for free. So that was the time. So I was like, okay. So I sent them a letter. I say, I'm interested. I listened to quite a few of your stories, right? I'm kind of interested. You can't purchase a Bible at that time in China, right? There's no Bible, in this bookstore. So I say, you have this free gift. I'm interested. Why don't you send me one? Boy, I never received it, but I was the university official talked to me about that. I don't know how they find out, but they say I was almost not able to graduate that year.
Oh, really?
Wow.
But even
the diploma. That was how bad it was.
And you never got the Bible either.
No, of course not.
Yeah, well, it's very interesting with this whole idea that we take information for granted, right? If you want to look at the Bible, you could go on any website, around here and find any minute little passage from the Bible, and it's talked about with 10,000 pages, right? Talking about the one little sentence in the Bible. But I can only imagine back before the internet, if you heard something on the radio beamed into, I can only imagine what the response was. Listen, if you want to call us, we got in our second hour today. We're sort of switching the format. It's opposite. Instead of taking the calls in the second hour in this program like we would normally do after our guest has appeared, we're going to talk to our guest through most of the second hour, so we probably won't have time for calls. If you want to call and ask any questions ahead of that in the first hour here, 479-1080 is the number. If you have any ideas about Hong Kong, if you've ever been to Hong Kong or seen it, or I certainly hope you were there back when it was still what we all remember as Hong Kong.
Yeah, and keep in mind the close down of Apple Daily. It's not only the close down of a newspaper. It's also a private owned privately owned corporation. The government basically the way they force Apple Daily to close down is they froze all their bank accounts,
assets.
Yeah, bank account. Basically, they all the bank accounts
can't pay anybody now.
Yeah, they cannot pay anybody.
Operate. Yeah.
So that's how they. Yeah. Well, think about it. They can do it to anybody. All the privately owned corporations, including all the foreign corporations, have operations in Hong Kong.
Well, let me ask a basic question, because a lot of people may not know this. There are no foreign banks anymore in Hong Kong, correct?
They're still like HSBC,
but they can still be closed down.
Yeah, they can. They can still be closed down anytime. Just like how they close down the Apple Daily. Right? It's still private-owned business.
So the fact that they're foreign-owned banking organizations doesn't really mean anything.
Well, think about this. We just talked about last week. China just passed this anti-foreign sanctions law, right? With that, work hand in hand with the Hong Kong's national security law. That's what's going to happen, because even you are foreign corporations, when China say they are going to make some efforts to counter the foreign sanctions, and like the United States going to sanction China for wherever the pandemic or for human rights or wherever. You suppose all the corporations in China, even your foreign corporations, you supposed to follow that. And so
that edict.
Yeah. So that if you don't follow that, they will do wherever it's needed,
for you to comply.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Amy?
So I'm going to say is that, on the surface, they still legally, they still use a British judicial system, but they actually, in fact, no more. They close everything, do everything without the due process. There's no law. Used to be the 50 years not going to change in this judicial system, which was a British system, right? But it's all gone, no more.
And one more thing is 2019, when the Hong Kong democracy movement was encountered by the Hong Kong policemen. There's a brutal, the Hong Kong police brutality took place on the street. I remember there was one piece news that really drew my focus. That was one of the police officer actually came out and say, for more than a decade, in the past 15 years before 2019, a lot of Hong Kong's police officer has been trained in mainland China.
Oh, see that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not going to work. All right, so Steve has called us from Cowles Beach. Steve, you're on China Über Alles. Hello, Steve, you there? Oh.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can now. I have to push all the buttons. Sorry about that.
That show last week when you had that special recording from Victor Davis, what's that guy's name, from the Institute?
Hoover Institute.
Yeah, the Hoover Institute. Brilliant speaker, guy. I really enjoyed that very much. The information that came through from him. Hey, I've got a question about, I don't know what the proper term is, where they think that if they open a restaurant, it should only be run by, if it's Thai, it should only be Thai people. What do they call that, Billy?
Ethnocentricity is one word you can use. Where, look, some of the finest restaurants in the world, Chinese restaurants are owned by French people, and some of the best, Mexican restaurants in the world are run by, white people. It doesn't make any sense to me. I understand what you're saying, but I've never understood.
What is the law? I actually didn't hear about that.
Well, there's
in California.
No. There's a movement that is sort of, I don't know who it's backed by even, but I've read about this movement where they think all Chinese restaurants should be run by ethnically Chinese people.
Well,
and all Mexican restaurants should be run by.
That's really ridiculous.
How about the infusion food, like a Mexican Chinese food? They have that.
You're supposed to be half-half?
I don't know.
Don't they have half-half or what?
I want to say something.
Go ahead, Steve.
So there's a guy trying. There's a family, I guess, opened a Thai restaurant. Someone said Sebastopol, but I'm not. I can't. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, it's been in the news. Somebody was opening a Thai restaurant. And they got hammered by the social justice warriors, trying to put them out of business. But I'm down here at Cal Beach, and there's on the weekends there's 6 Mexican families selling hot dogs wrapped in bacon. So wait a second. Last time I looked, hot dogs wrapped in bacon didn't originate in Mexico. So it's going to have to work. It's going to have to work both ways. If the Mexicans are selling tacos, okay, great. But are they going to be selling hamburgers and apple pie? No, that is not going to fly.
Well, can you call that racism?
I think so. Here's my thought. And look, Steve, I think we should all vote, with our wallets. If you like the way the hot dog wrapped in bacon tastes made by the Mexicans, if you want to eat that for lunch, vote with your wallet. If you want to eat apple pie made by, somebody from Yugoslavia, vote with your wallet,
And go to P.F. Chang. It's an excellent Chinese restaurant. I mean, all the cooks are Mexicans.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, hey, Billy, when I was living in
Benihana is Japanese, but the Mexican cook.
Exactly.
On the table.
Go ahead,
Steve. When I was living in North Beach, I'd walk around North Beach. Every restaurant in North Beach says authentic Italian restaurant made authentic. And you look back in there, and nobody speaks anything but Spanish in the kitchen.
I understand that.
That's right.
Hey, listen, guys, we got to end our first hour. We're running out of time here. I appreciate the call, Steve.
Bill, just let everybody cook, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, hang on. We're gonna come back with more of China Über Alles on AM 1080 KSCO in just a couple of minutes here. Keep it right here. We'll be right back.
KSCO News Talk time is 3:05. I'm Sam Quentin with your King of the Hill traffic and weather. We will start out with Highway 129. It is closed between Lakeview and Blackburn due to a police action involving a shooting earlier, and no notice as to when that will reopen. Elsewhere, Highway 17 up and over the summit, that's accident-free and moving at the limit. Highway 9 is clear. Now we get into a little trouble. Highway 1 southbound coming off the Fish Hook is all the way through Bay Avenue. It is very slow in go conditions. Right now listed as a 13-minute delay, and that liable to get worse. The rest of the way down to Monterey, however, is accident-free and moving at the limit. Highway 156 eastbound coming out of San Juan Bautista, that is really messed up right now. Very slow in go conditions, and they're saying now it's a 7-minute delay. It looks to me like it's worse than that. And Highway 101 southbound from South Coyote through Madrone, that is stuck in bumper-to-bumper traffic right now. That's listed as a 12-minute delay through that area. And also southbound between Gilroy and Carnadero, another short bit of slow traffic there. Your Central Coast forecast for Monterey Bay this afternoon. Sunny skies, looking for a high of 69. We're going to beat that right now outside the KSCO studios. It is 72 degrees. I'd like to go to here. Yes. We have to tell you, Flight 1080 is on the road. It will be at the grand opening of the Staff of Life Market. That's at 906 Eastlake Avenue in Eastlake Village Shopping Center. They're going to have all kinds of fun raffle prizes, wine tasting, beer tasting, appetizers, and much, much more. Check it out, Dave Michaels and Flight 1080 with the grand opening of the Staff of Life. KSCO News Talk time now, 3:08, time for China Über Alles.
Brought to you in part by Sushi Market Sprouts on 7th in Santa Cruz and Kaito in the Capitola Mall Food Court. Treat yourself to the finest Japanese cuisine you'll find anywhere with fresh sushi to go and delicious ramen dinners. Sushi Market Sprouts and Kaito. Yum! Welcome to the second hour of China Über Alles for this Thursday. I'm Bill Graff, along with my guests Nan Su and Amy Howe. And in our second hour today, we sort of have changed the format just a little bit. Normally we have our guest in the first hour, but today we are talking with our guest in the second hour. We will take calls later on in this hour. We are going to be talking with Gerald Celente, who is an American trend forecaster. He's publisher of the Trends Journal, a business consultant. He's also an author, and he makes predictions about the global financial markets and other important events. He established the weekly Trends Journal containing political, economic, and social research, analysis, and forecasts. The publication's slogan is, I actually really like this a lot, history before it happens. It's a great slogan. It was established in 1980 as a periodical and reflects the opinions of Mr. Celente and his Trends Research Institute team.
That's a great slogan.
Isn't that a great slogan?
Yeah, history does repeat itself.
Yes, it does. So Amy Howe is with us on the telephone, and we also have Mr. Celente. Let's bring both of those folks on board. Mr. Celente, good afternoon to you, and thank you for being on our program today.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael.
We have a couple of things. I want to ask you, what is the most significant thing that you have researched and forecast, and that's actually come to bear?
I don't know if it's one thing. You know, it's from I coined the term clean food back in 1993. New York Times did a story on it. To the gourmet coffee trend back in the late 80s when people weren't drinking this stuff, to the 1987 stock market crash, the dot-com bust, took out the domain name, the Panic of '08 in 2007. So, it's been a lot of different ones. And I wouldn't say there's just one that, that it's number one. It's an ongoing. I mean, you see the magazine, it's about 130 pages this past week, no ads. And so, we look at so many different things around the world, and we're talking about Hong Kong and what's going on there.
What do you see there, sir?
Well, again, I used to be on Hong Kong TV when this thing was going on, when the protest, and we were writing about it continually in 2019. And, very interesting. They couldn't stop it. I'd be on the air like I'm on with you, and then, they take a break, and I say to the guys, so listen, what's going on over there? Oh, we're not stopping. We're not stopping. And you have a city of, 7.5 million people, and you have 1 million people taking to the streets? 1 million out of 7.5 million? That's a lot of people. So this thing wasn't going to stop. And then all of a sudden, it stopped. And what stopped it? Chinese Lunar New Year 2020. The coronavirus breaks out. Our headline story in the Trends Journal, 2 weeks later, January 28th, coronavirus. This is when the whole thing broke out. 106 dead in China. And our next line was 1.4 billion still alive. What are you telling me this stuff for? Well, I'll tell you why. Because now we're going to lock down places. And what do? They locked down Hong Kong. They could not stop the protests. They could not stop the protests. That stopped it.
Wow.
Wow. And this is, by the way, this was going on. There were protests. We write our top trends for the coming year in December. So in December 2019, one of our other top trends was New World Disorder. There were protests going on in India, in Lebanon, in Algeria, in South Africa, in Chile, in Bolivia, in Peru, in Colombia, all France, the yellow vest, all over. Now the COVID war broke out. You're not allowed to protest anymore. And they locked them down. They stopped them. And they did that in China. And then they passed a security law. And that was the end of it. That was the end of it. Finished.
Amy, ask your question, because I have so many that are popping in my head.
Yeah.
It's your turn.
Okay, Mr. Celente, it's an honor to have you come back to KSCO and doing the program with us. Really welcome.
Thank you.
And I have over the years, you predicted a lot of things, big events, important events, global market, everything. So I have one more new thing I want you to predict it. So we all know Hong Kong's gone, but for communists, the CCP, they try to make another Hong Kong. So, China have one island called the Hainan Island. Actually, it's part of a peninsula and to the mainland, and not really island. So they make a place, the city called Sanyang. And right now, they're building a huge shopping mall. It's 10 times bigger than Dubai. I saw some picture. I can't believe it. It's kind of futuristic. It's like not real. And they try to make a Sanyang as a free port. And for whole world go there to shopping. Even for Chinese citizens, they go there. They don't have to pay tax. No sales tax. So it's like a paradise. They try to replace Hong Kong. It's a financial center, used to be served in the gateway to Asia, and that also third financial center and to the world. And they are CCP, it's communist system, right? You cannot exchanging money, currency. They try to make something out. They try to make a digital money system to replace the system we have now. So it's no problem for currency. You think Sanyang will be a next Hong Kong? even though they're still under communism.
Absolutely, yeah. They look who's going over there. J.P. Morgan Chase is going over there. BlackRock. They're going there. One bank after another. We've been writing about this week after week in the magazine. You could talk all you want about the Uyghurs and everything else that they're doing. The bottom line, it's all that people are concerned about. I mean, it's the same story over and over again. Money is what's driving things, and so they don't care about what they're doing to Hong Kong or HSBC. Look what they're doing. I mean, they're pulling out of Western countries and they're moving into Hong Kong and into China. So again, we're political atheists. We look at things the way they are, not the way we want them to be. And one of our other top trends for 2020 was China 21st century. The 20th century was the American century, and the 21st century is going to be the Chinese century. The business of China has been business, while the business of America has been war. And the business of China will be war in later years, but not now. And again, the Americans know that it's just like with Russia. I mean, how many years? I mean, they had me hiding under a desk as a kid, with the Cold War. Nothing happened between the United States and Russia as far as war, because they know it would be the end of all wars. They're nuclear armed to the teeth, and so too is China. So China, again, look with the Belt and Road Initiative, on and on and on. And now you're seeing the banksters going to China because they got 1.4 billion people. And their dual circulation policy now, where they're building these a self-sustaining economy, as well as knowing that they have to have exports going as well. So the Chinese are moving ahead, very fast. And by the way, you could thank Bill Clinton the most for this.
Of course, Bill Clinton was the one. For our audience, if you have not read Bill Clinton's speech back in 2000 when he tried to push the Congress to allow China join WTO, the speech at Johns Hopkins University. You can still read it. It's online, and very rosy picture about the future of China. And now, Mr. Celente, actually, Michael was it's now with us today. Our host today is Bill Graff.
Oh, okay.
And I'm Nansu. And now let me ask the next question. When you say you published the paper with the big title 106 die, and then small subtitle more than 1 million still alive.
1.4 billion. Yeah.
Now, when you put the article on and publish it, was that my question is, do you have any thoughts in your mind? And this is this pandemic, or maybe at that time it was still epidemic, was actually a man-made.
No, I didn't look at it like that at all. All we did was look at it as something that they were using to lock down and you pass the security bills and other things to stop the protests in Hong Kong. Again, why are you telling me only 1.5 million people die every year in China from air pollution? That's why they wear those ridiculous masks. Why are you telling me 106 people died? Why? What is this? Why is the media picking this up? Look what else is going on around the world. Why are you telling me this? And I realize the reason they're doing it is because they're going to use this as a strategy to end the protests. They couldn't stop them. They could not stop those protests.
Wow. Let me ask you this. I've read your background that, as a child you thought about things and you grew up in an Italian-American family in New York City in the Bronx, and you had early political experience running a mayoral campaign in Yonkers, New York. How did that experience ignite your fascination with forecasts and predictions?
Well, what happened was they sent me then to Albany. I was the assistant to the Secretary of the New York State Senate, and I designed and instructed American politics and campaign technology, taught it at St. John's University. And then I became the number 2 guy running a major trade association, and I was living between D.C. and Chicago. And I was with Ronald Reagan for an hour and a half at 30 years old. I picked him up at Chicago Hilton, him and Mike Deaver, those times you got in a taxi cab. And anyway, so I'm in D.C. a lot. And what happened was the Iranian conflict started.
Oh, here we go.
And I knew about, how the CIA and the MI6, Kermit Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt's grandson, and the MI6 overthrew the democratically elected government of Mossadegh in 1953. Because I've always liked history as a kid, and I hated everything else. I barely got through school. But anyway, I knew about what was going on and how British Petroleum, better known back then was Anglo-Iranian Oil, and Standard Oil, better known today as back then was ExxonMobil. They overthrew the country, and they brought in the Savak, the secret police that made the SS look, as pretty good. And so when millions of people took to the streets, and I'm saying to myself, this thing is real, this thing's coming down. And Jimmy Carter came back from visiting the Shah, he and Rosalind, on New Year's Eve, and he came back, and in those days, this is how I got in the business. He came back, and they had the helicopter, and they salute, and he goes to the microphones, and he tells the American people that the Shah is the island of stability in the Middle East. In the Bronx, we used to have a saying, BS has its own sound. And I started thinking to myself, as all the Americans are hating the Iranians, and I said, what will the implications be? Now, this is 1970s, late 1970s, and I started betting on gold and oil futures.
Yeah.
And a $5,000 bet I brought into almost $750,000. And I was tired of doing the job that I was doing. I was killing environmental legislation at the height of the environmental movement back in the 70s. And I started growing up. And I realized, and that's when I became a political atheist. I've been around enough. I've been with, and now in my life, I've been with princes, prime ministers, and presidents. And these are the people I hated in high school and college that wanted to be class president, So I look at things to the way they are and not the way I want them to be. And so it gave me an open-minded perspective. And by the way, I lost most of that almost $750,000 I made, gambling away in playing the futures markets. And futures markets were new back then, by the way. So anyway, that's how I learned how to do it.
Well, I'll tell you what. I want to steal your term, political atheist. I'm going to hold on to that one. I like that. I think that's what I am, actually.
Yeah, the political system is so corrupt. I've been there. Yeah. Nobody could believe when I quit the job up in Albany. You're quitting? I said, listen, man. I said, it's not for me to watch grown men grovel to work their way up to the top. My buddy Brian Donahue, whose wife became the assistant, the lieutenant governor under Pataki. I couldn't stand it. It wasn't who you are, what you do, how good you're doing it, how much you're going to suck up to get up to where you need to go.
Wow.
That's the system.
See, that is a profound statement. Amy, you want to ask another question?
Yes, I heard the Mr. Celente was predicted something that the future is kind of sad. So you think China and CCP will dominate the 21st century?
Absolutely. What I did when Michael had called me and asked me to be on, I started every day. By the way, I go to China Daily. I go to the Chinese newspapers to see what they have to say. I go to Global Times, and so I want to hear what they have to say, and that's what I do. By the way, with everything. And this is the line that they came up with. Apple Daily represented both anti-China sentiment and opposition to the Communist Party of China. So there you go.
Wow.
You are not allowed to be in opposition.
So
now, look what the United States just did with the shutting down the Iranian press TV. And more than 30 websites just yesterday, 2 days ago. They shut down Press TV and a number of websites. So it's control. And that's what the people in power are. There's not going to be any freedom in China. I mean, you know, one of our other covers of the magazine was Tankman 2.0. The Chinese way, you must obey. And it's happening in a country near you. Hey, I'm the governor over here. I don't care about the Bill of Rights. Screw the Constitution. I'll tell you what to do in executive order. Hey, and boom, everybody does it. So this is what's going on. It's the Chinese way, you will obey, and we have followed China. Who would have ever dreamt that we'd all be wearing masks? Oh, by the way, the guy Fauci, who makes almost $500,000 a year of taxpayer money, as you well know, he came out on CBS, and he also went through going through his emails saying that, oh yeah, those masks are ineffective, don't wear them. And now we become the Chinese way.
Now, Mr. Celente, let me ask you these questions. Knowing, you know, you just make the statement that the 21st century, it's going to be a Chinese century. So, what kind of things we Americans should do to fight to protect our freedom?
Is what China's doing, a self-sustaining economy. How about made in USA?
Wow, that's what you're talking.
We have more natural and human resources. Look, you know the story. China couldn't make any. You mentioned about what happened with Clinton's speech. Go back to something that most Americans totally forgot about: the Battle of Seattle. When they were having the World Trade Organization meeting in Seattle in 1999, before China got into the World Trade Organization, 40,000 people over that, more than that, took to the streets. Totally peaceful. And all of a sudden, those Asian provocateurs start slamming, breaking windows, burning a car, throwing a couple of Molotov cocktails, and that was all the news. Forgetting that the people were protesting this back then. And so to me, the only way is I'm an American. America first. Yeah, I'll pay more for something made in America. And you know what they did. China couldn't make anything. And what did they do? Oh, yeah, you could make it here, but we're going to own 51% of it, but you have to do all your manufacturing here. So now all the manufacturers from Europe and the United States went over there, gave them all their manufacturing from high-tech to heavy industry. So what we need to do as we keep advancing is to make it's very simple. Put back into place the tax laws and what you had before, the trade agreements, what you had before they changed them. It's as simple as that.
Wow, it's amazing you're saying that, Mr. Celente, because that's what we've been talking about. Nan's been talking about this. He said, bring the manufacturing away from China, even if you don't bring it all the way back to the United States. Bring it to another country where we have a better agreement.
But we don't. Look! I'm a guy. I born in 1946. I'm at the height of the Vietnam War. Oh, those commies! If we don't go over there and kill them. Oh, what are we doing now? And of course, I'm not saying I was totally against the war. No, actually, I was too stupid to be against the war when I was that young. But anyway, and I went to Vietnam in 1996. It broke my heart to see what happened. But anyway, now look at the business we're doing with Vietnam. Look at the business we're doing with them, and how they taught us to hate them. How they taught us to hate the Chinese, the commies. No, we have to put if we want to be a strong country, we have to put the tariffs and the barriers back in place that made America what it was. And anyway, that's the way. And again, the motto of the magazine is "Think for yourself." So anyway, that's the way I see it. And to me, it's a self-sustaining economy.
Wow.
And you remember, go back to when they were bringing
number one. Mm-hmm.
You go back to when they brought China into the World Trade Organization. Before they brought them in, their GDP was flat. It was flat.
Yeah.
And boom, 2000, it shoots straight up.
Yeah, the graph, when you look at the graphic of that change, it is almost immediate and it's profound.
That was it. After China joined WTO, their GDP pretty much doubled in the first 10 years after 2001. That was just amazing.
Mr. The middle class has grown over 35%.
Yeah.
Almost a half a billion people in China are considered middle class. And as America's middle class dies, and you just saw the numbers that came out from Credit Suisse 2 days ago, how the rich in America got so much richer, while the rest of us have become... every time I go into it... Again, when we're talking about what happened with China and how they did away with the tariffs and the taxes and the other things that made it happen, it's the same thing they did with the getting rid of the antitrust laws.
Yeah.
When I was a young guy, there were things called stationery stores and hardware stores before Lowe's and Home Depot and Staples. I go into one of these places now, my heart breaks when I see the people working there, because I know they have no future.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
I remember the little hardware store in my hometown owned by the family that owned it since they built it, and they were still running it when I went off to go to the South Pacific as, a young kid with my family, and I went back to my hometown, and it's now one of those corporate stores.
Yeah. And then anyway, going back to the politicians, morons and imbeciles call what they get campaign contributions. They're bribes and payoffs. Look what happened when they brought that guy Blinken in, who's our U.S. Secretary of State. Anyway, when he was they brought him in and started questioning him, to give him the power to be Secretary of State. They asked him, how did Biden get this $23 million from this Chinese company? What's this about? And he refused to answer it. $23 million for, they put allegedly for this University of Pennsylvania something. $23 million is chump change. And that's what you buy the politicians off of, chump change, because they've never worked a day in their lives, so you could buy them off cheaply. I was there, I saw it, I know it, and that's how it's played. And so they bought off our country, and they keep doing it. Pfizer, by the way, they gave Biden $1 million to congratulate him for his inauguration. So you look at what's going on. It's right in front of everybody's eyes. Again, when I used to get upset like this, my father, may he rest in peace, would say to me, "Son, calm down. People have little minds."
Well, Mr. Celente, we have very much enjoyed having you with us today. Will you come back and talk to us again? And we'd love to have you back.
Anytime. And, of course, if anybody wants to subscribe to the Trends Journal, it's trendsjournal.com.
All right. Thank you, sir, so much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Celente.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Take care. We are taking our first commercial break of the show somewhat late, as we normally do this in one chunk at the end of the hour. We're going to take 2 short breaks today instead.
Satisfy your hunger right now with the delicious ramen and sushi you'll find waiting for you at Kaito. Easy in and out location in the Capitola Mall food court. Special orders welcome. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
This is Koji. I'm looking forward to seeing you at my restaurant, Kaito.
When you need to know its true value, call on the appraisal experts at Clark's Auction Company. Hi, I'm Patty Clark of Clark's Auction Company. Whether it's a diamond ring or an entire estate, Clark's Auction has the appraisal expertise to identify its true value. Clark's appraisals are trusted by insurance companies, attorneys, conservators, and executors. When you need to know its true value, call Clark's Auction in Scotts Valley at 831-706-8776 or clarksauctions.com.
Chef Ben here from the Back Nine Grill and Bar at the Pasatiempo exit, sharing with you our family meal. A full rack of ribs, a whole smoked chicken, a pound of pulled pork, and plenty of barbecue sauce, served with a full quart of baked beans, coleslaw, macaroni and cheese, dinner rolls, onions, and pickles, including dessert, homemade brownies, and a pint of Marianne's vanilla bean ice cream. Feeds 4 to 6 hungry people, ready in 15 minutes. See you at the 9.
Anywhere you have a little sunshine. KNOXGardenBox.com. That's KnoxGardenBox.com.
Well, Congratulations, Michael Zwerling. He got Mr. Celente to call us and talk to us. What a fascinating.
Yeah, in a very very short notice.
Yeah, that's a great talk. Yeah,
he's very astute. Well, that's how come we can make
exciting. Yeah.
I'll tell you, he does make very interesting predictions. So every once in a while he blows one. It doesn't come out the way he wants. But boy, he's really predicted a lot of interesting stuff through the years.
Yeah, well, one thing I forgot to ask him is have him to predict if this year is going to have another stock market crash. Well, maybe we'll ask him next time. Now,
important.
But however, one thing I do want to say this is it's related to Amy's question about if Hainan province, the Sanya city, is going to become is going to replace Hong Kong as the next financial center.
That's their plan.
That's their plan, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think they have a zero chance to happen. Why do I say that? Well, the Chinese government has tried years to have Shanghai or Shenzhen. That's the city next to Hong Kong, but inside China, they try to have that two cities to replace Hong Kong as the third largest financial center in the world after New York and London. Now they're just trying in a different location in Hainan province of Sanya, but
but also have some new law.
I know, but it doesn't matter.
Don't do this. No tax for anything.
It's not tax. It's not about tax. So it's never going to have China. It's never, as long as it's under the rule of Chinese Communist Party, it's never going to be able to establish a war financial center.
And I think I can say
why. That's why I tried to ask Celente, and I forgot the question. I'm talking about our system still can win over this evil system.
Well,
really?
I think you might.
We're finished?
No, I don't think so. And I think you brought up the point I was just going to make. The reason why the new city won't make it, and the reason why Shanghai hasn't made it, or Shenzhen hasn't made it, is because I think the main word is trust.
Well, trust is one thing, and another.
Well, foreign people don't want to come and spend all the money to establish a relationship and infrastructure and the rest of the stuff like they had in Hong Kong with a government who can turn on them and kill it like a bug.
Yeah, that's one thing. Well, there's another technical detail. I'm trying to talk about this in the technical detail. Now, think about when you're trying to establish the financial center, a war financial center like London, like New York.
Like Hong Kong was.
Like Hong Kong once was. Now, the first thing you need is a stock market, right? Now, do you think... See, first of all, stock market, it's an emotional animal, right? So, now, do you think, what kind of emotion it's going to be, if you build a financial center that's inside China, under the censorship, internet censorship, you don't really have
freedom, you can't do it.
You don't know what's going on around the world. How are you going to have the stock market over there?
Well, not only that.
We always argue with, who's in commanding heights in the financial, right? Is it market or is it control, government control? Right, it's a market, so in no freedom, you cannot be a financial.
You also need freedom to trade. In your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
If you're a trader on the floor of a stock exchange, doesn't matter where it is, and you get a idea about trading a particular stock. You go with it, right? But if you're under communist rule all the time and you realize that you know about all the companies under communist rule and you think you're going to trade that stock and oh gosh, if I do this wrong, they're going to haul me away.
The things I tell you, I have the personal experience with this city, Sanyang. That's why I pay very close attention. 2007, I follow this Singapore real estate investment company. So I bought some real estate there, invested. I saw that they talking about, oh, it's beautiful. I tell you, the weather concern is far better than Hong Kong, also much bigger. Of course, later on, half of Sanyang becoming a military navy, I think a nuclear submarine base. So they took most of it out because I stay in the Marriott resort. That was the last resort they allow you to build on that side of the ocean. And so I invested, and then the reason I pull out everything after 5 years, good thing I pulled out everything, because I just don't believe it. You know, and they say that they have this law, and you invest the money, you pay, if capital gain, you pay the tax, but your initial investment can't get it back. They never allow you to do that. That's what I'm talking about. Only in, now out. Who's going to do that, right? No, they create, don't laugh, they create the animal and put it in the Chinese casino called the picho. They only eat, they don't shit. Sorry.
Oh my goodness! All right, let's. We have a phone call. Nick is calling us from Royal Oaks. Nick, you're on KSCO's China Über Alles.
A virus. It's more of a collaboration, and just the icing on the cake that for China and the U.S. that Japan takes a big hit on the Olympics. I just wanted to bring up the Olympic factor, that they're taking a big hit, and it's certainly been. As far as either of these groups I just mentioned, China and the United States, it did not discourage them from bringing it in. I would say it was more of a weird smile on their face that it happens. So these things were...
So do you think they should hold the Olympics, Nick?
Oh, I think it should go full bore, 75% at least.
You mean
bringing people in?
You mean Japan?
Yeah.
And vaccinations, I'm certainly everybody in that category would go for it, mostly. And so I think the Olympics is just being just downplay that. It's a not downplay. It's
Now, hey, Nick, let me ask you this question. What do you think about boycotting Beijing Olympic 2022?
That's a nice idea. I think everything that happened on Hong Kong is right on our face. I mean, it might as well be that on our left that we did not. It happened. I mean, not emotion. That we actually are okay with it in the evil sense. That is really in the momentum controlling. I mean, when Senator Bob Dole, he vetoed every environmental deal going. And Daryl, I was hearing him. He said he went into that kind of stuff, and he says it's to keep the companies from leaving because it may make things cheaper. It did nothing to keep them from going. They left. And
so you think we should boycott the Beijing Olympics because of the way China has been treating us economically?
Well, what they did to Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But as far as putting punishing the Olympics, not exactly, because it's our fault that they got into Hong Kong somehow.
Well, no, that's a decent statement. Hey, Nick, thanks for the call. We appreciate your time. Nick, I think Nick kind of stated it the way I feel about it, maybe a little bit. I feel bad for the athletes.
That's
right. They spend all that time.
They say, is that true? American Olympic Committee say that should be not a political show. If
we don't boycotting Olympic in Beijing 2022, then it's a political statement. We are going to a country that's doing the genocide, and then we're going there, think about why, the Olympic in the olden ways, they don't give you a medal when you win the game. They give you the olive branch.
Yeah.
Olive branch, right? Well, think about why that. It's for peace. It's for longevity. It's for humanity. That's what it means. Now, you give people medal, it's a shiny, but hey, let's not to forget the original Olympic spirit.
Yeah, you're making a very good point.
So they say that don't make it politicized. And that's what the committee say.
That's the wrong statement, because you are going to a country, a government that's doing the genocide, and you're doing Olympic over there. That's a public recognition to the genocide.
Okay, let me bring something up then, using your logic. Okay, your reason for when we went to. Remember, the United States went to what I call the Nazi Berlin Olympics. The Nazi,
yes.
Okay, and look what happened. Our best runner was Jesse Owens, a black person who just wiped the floor with the Nazi competitors. Right? I mean, he just blew past them like they were walking. He was that much better. And several of our other athletes were Native Americans and people of color and Japanese people and everything else, right? So we did pretty well in those Olympics, and it sent the message to the oppressive Nazi regime that held the Berlin Olympics. You know what? You can have all these crazy views about people and their ethnicity and the rest of that, but we came here to compete on even ground, and we wiped the floor with you guys.
Well, but it did not stop the war. That's the key.
But maybe going there and competing against China and wiping the floor with them, like we did in Germany, maybe we'll make a statement about maybe you shouldn't be persecuting people like the Uyghurs and stuff like that.
Well,
I mean, there's an argument that way, is all I'm saying.
Right. Well, Well, first of all, I doubt it's going to happen, because first of all, the CCP government, it's 10 times worse, 100 times worse, or maybe a lot more worse than the Nazi government. Now, the Chinese government, they have been what they have been doing. They have been really, really good at using the Olympic medal to legitimize the success of the government. See, our athletes. Here in the Western world or in the United States, our athletes, they do that. They do all these athletic games because they like it, right? They start their very first step because they like basketball, they like the hockeys, they like wherever,
swimming,
right? They start it, and then their parents will pay the money for the private lessons. They will hire.
Can we choose another place?
Yeah, wherever they do. This is how our system, build up. That's how we have our talented people to compete in the Olympic game. But China is totally different. It's the national.
They're conscripted.
Yeah, it's the national effort to go after the medals, because the medals representing the success of the communist government.
Right.
So that's why they caught up so fast. Not because all those athletes, they really like it, but those athletes, many of them are from very, very poor families in the remote areas of China. That's their only opportunity for the whole. And
they're drafted for their. They show a little talent, and so they're drafted for whatever it is they do. Yeah, no, we understand.
Yeah, just go watch that. There was a movie.
I remember at the time, Russian was invented the Khmer and the Ukrainian, and then I think still they have the Olympic. People will still go.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And by the way, China.
You think it should make a politicized or it shouldn't?
I think it's already politicized. We did not politicize the game, but Chinese government make it.
Democracy, everybody vote. They say China should have. Who choose the place? Everybody vote, right? International Olympic Committee vote, right? Choose the place.
Well,
I think so.
This is good.
Yeah.
This is the same.
So you cannot, Americans say, no, you had to be that place. We cannot do that.
The three of us represent what's going on around the world right now. No, I'm serious. There is a big discussion right now worldwide about the Chinese Olympics, about whether we should boycott it, whether the other participating countries ought to boycott the Olympics. There's another problem with the Olympics that it's like the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. But, they're having a very, very hard time now finding future sites to hold the Olympics because it's so expensive. So China, the Japanese are losing a load of money.
Almost every country losing money. Yes.
Yeah, losing a lot of money.
I remember
nobody make money.
Well, I remember
Athens,
Greece.
They lost lots of money, almost bankrupt. Greece.
Yeah.
I remember
when started was.
I remember 1 year. What was the Atlanta? We held
the Atlanta Olympics.
Bombing.
And also 1980 when we boycott the Soviet Union.
That's right.
In 1984, there was a Los Angeles Olympic.
Right.
We actually made money because
I think that was the last Olympics that did make money.
Yeah, that was because
only
they privatized
make the money, I guess.
Yeah,
they privatized it.
Atlanta also lost money.
Well, the reason why the Olympics in Los Angeles did okay, all the venues were already made. In places like China, the last time we had the Chinese Olympic, the last one, they had to build all the stuff. It didn't exist. And the same problem with Japan.
Well, see that.
Remember that Greece, they almost bankrupt.
Yes.
They built it, really. Also, not their own money. Lots of investors there. They all lots of money.
No, well, see, I think the biggest loss is if we go to Beijing Olympic and totally forget about the humanity. That will be the biggest loss, not just for now, but also for the future. And we look back in the future to what we are doing right now. If we do not boycott 2022 Beijing Olympic, we will realize that's the biggest loss in the history of Olympic.
Well, we'll see. I think what's happening right now, and maybe I'm just off. I'm sometimes off. I think right now they're trying to get through the Japanese Olympics. They're trying to get that one, done and finished, so that we can then focus on the next Olympic. And I think once the Japanese Olympics is concluded, then I think you'll see a lot of focus on the political ramifications of China, whether we should do it or not. All that discussion will take place. It ramp way up as soon as the Japanese Olympics is gone.
I certainly hope so. And then we are looking forward to host more programs to discuss this, if we supposed to, and if we are willing to, and what is the problem if we don't do the boycott of Beijing Olympic 2022.
Yeah. Good topics. Hey, listen, I'm going to take our next break. Otherwise, I will forget to do it. I want to remind folks that you can find out more about our program. It's really quite simple. You can go to the website, ChinaUberAllis.com, and it will... when you go to that website, it brings up a whole bunch of information about our topics, articles, all about the Epoch Times. There's some information about Amy's stories. All kinds of stuff is there. We want you to go there and check it out. ChinaUberAllis.com.
The fresh, prepared, twice-daily grab-and-go sushi you'll find waiting for you at Sushi Market Sprouts, 2 blocks from the beach at 300 7th Avenue in Santa Cruz. Fresh, delicious, and oh so good.
Hello, I'm Junko, and I look forward to serving you at the Sushi Market Sprouts.
Etheric Networks has been providing Internet for over 12 years to the Central Coast. One of only a handful of Internet service providers that signed the industry letter to the FCC supporting net neutrality and is dedicated to maintaining a secure, free, and open Internet experience. Join the Etheric Network and experience our superior service. Our contracts are friendly and simple to understand. We offer predictable monthly pricing. We have local technical support that's available 7/24. Importantly, Etheric offers the same speed on upload as download. We offer a symmetric service. Call 650-399-4200 or visit etheric.net online. That's ETHERIC.net. Etheric is a Bay Area-based company, and workers currently own 20% of our stock. We offer living wages, and our engineers are responsive. We often can install people within a week or in emergencies the next day. Call 650-399-4200 or visit etheric.net online. Don't forget to mention KSCO to receive your $239 discount on installation equipment. Happy surfing.
If electricity flows through it, you can save a lot of money by doing it yourself with the help of the experts at Santa Cruz Electronics. Hello, Charlie Friedman here. Listen to the things your friends and neighbors are doing for themselves with the help of Santa Cruz Electronics.
Microwave repair. Robotic arm with controller for E-Shed industrial arm.
Tesla coil for my rail gun.
Dead tricks upgrades.
Drive for a telescope.
A tube amp for my guitar.
Submersible sensors for NASA.
Ethernet cable for my new iMac.
Solar-powered gate.
Instrument panel for an airplane.
Wiring my hot rod.
Upgrading PC system. Help with home wiring.
Custom audio cables for recording studio.
High voltage electronic ignition circuit.
Building a spaceship.
If electricity flows through it, you can save a lot of money by doing it yourself with the help of the experts at Santa Cruz Electronics. Voted best electronics store 2 years running. Call Santa Cruz Electronics today at 831-479-5444 or visit at 2808 SoCal Avenue in Santa Cruz. Do it yourself and save money with the help of Santa Cruz Electronics.
At Batteries Plus, we do more than fix phones and tablets. We help our neighbors power their lives. Visit Batteries Plus in-store, curbside, and online to save $30 on X2 Power Boat batteries. For offer details and limitations, visit batteriesplus.com.
KSCO Radio is proud to present the Ghosts and Grub radio show with Paul Tashiro. Join us Fridays from 9 to 10 p.m. as Paul seeks out paranormal teams to reveal their investigative work and talk about their haunted experiences. He'll also showcase restaurant owners and chefs, talk about their favorite food creations, the culture behind them, and the haunted history of the buildings. Tune in to KSCO for the Ghosts and Grub radio show every Friday from 9 to 10 p.m. on KSCO. This is China Über Alles on AM 1080 KSCO. We've actually done something we rarely get to do. We actually took the commercial break in time to actually come back for a little discussion before the end of the show. Amy, what do you think? I think we ought to have Gerald Celente come back and talk to us some more, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Very interesting man. Has done a lot of things all over the world, especially in China. And it was to my surprise that he was really very much right on the point. I
liked his prediction, although I don't like the fact that he
predicted.
I don't like what he predicted, but he did seem to think that we're looking at a China-dominated next couple of years,
provided if Americans don't
do something,
don't do anything.
Yeah, well,
so this is the wake-up call, guys. It's a wake-up call. It's about the future generations, the lifestyles, the freedom. The liberty. I mean, that's the things that's started by our founding father.
It's also about our lifestyle and whatnot. He made a great point. China's middle class is getting bigger, and Americans' middle class is getting smaller.
Yeah.
It's shrinking. Amy's when you see your colleagues and your friends do certain things, and it works out for them, you should remember that. Amy invested in China, in a particular place in China. She realized, she looked at it and she went, well, I don't know about this. And she pulled her money out, and guess what? It tanked. And she she saved it.
Mostly is the corruption system. I couldn't understand. I don't know what to do with that.
Well, nobody knows what to do with corruption. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Corruption is not good anywhere. When you see, and unfortunately, we look around in America and other countries around us, and China and other places, corruption is getting worse.
Yeah. So I don't believe a corrupt system will win. I just don't believe that.
Yeah, I don't either. Listen, we want to thank our listeners so much for joining us. We know that you have a choice, and we're glad you chose us. Amy will be here next week to finish the second half of her story. I know what's coming. And Nansu, of course, can be read in the Epic Times and heard right here on the electric radio. And me, I'm here all the time here at KSCO. You always know where to find me. Thank you for joining us, and thanks, Sam, for engineering today. We do appreciate it. This is KSCO Santa Cruz. ChinaUberAlice.com is a great website. Visit it. And stay tuned. Flight 1080 is coming up remotely today from Watsonville. This is KSCO Santa Cruz.